Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing an in-depth brow tutorial on the two styles that I like to do with my brows. Yesterday my photo was actually reposted by Anastasia Beverly Hills on Instagram, which was so amazing and so exciting, and I got a huge influx of comments on my eyebrows and messages asking me to do an eyebrow tutorial, so here I am doing one. In this video I take you through two different eyebrow styles that I kind of bounce back and forth between. One is a little more dramatic and a little more glam, and the other is my everyday natural feathered brow, and let's get right into it. So I'm going to start off with the more dramatic glam brow. For this style I like to use a pomade. Usually I go for the Anastasia Dip Brow. I use the shade Medium Brown. I also recently picked up this. This is the Benefit, can you see it? The Benefit Brow. This is in the shade number 4. This is pretty good as well, pretty similar to the Dip Brow, so take your pick. I am going to be using the Dip Brow today just because I'm a little more familiar and comfortable with it, but either one is pretty good. So before I start, I did do my foundation first today. Sometimes I like to do my brows first, sometimes I like to do my foundation first. It depends on the kind of eye look that I'm going to do. If I want something with like a super sharp edge on my eyeshadow, then I'll usually do my eyebrows and eyeshadow first and then go in with foundation. If I want something a little more blended into my face, I guess, something a little softer, then I usually will do my foundation first. Honestly, it really just depends on my mood, how I'm feeling. It changes literally all the time, so to me it's not something that's a super huge deal. But today I did do my foundation first, so I'm just going to brush it out with this spoolie, make sure that there's no product actually in my brow. Okay, now I'm just going to start filling them in. I'm going to take this angled brush. This is a Smith 230 brush. Smith Cosmetics brushes are a bit on the pricey side, but honestly I think they're so worth it. This one is just a tiny little angled brush. This one is like super defined and pretty thin. It keeps its shape really nicely, and I really like it for getting like precise hair strokes. So I'm just going to dip that into the Dip Brow. So once I have product on the brush, I like to kind of just go like this on either side so that there's not too much product on it, and it also makes the brush really thin, like makes the bristles together. So now I'm just gonna go in and start filling it in. I'm just gonna brush my hairs up so I can really see what I'm doing here. And I'm just going to start going in. Basically what I'm doing here is looking for the sparser areas, which on this brow are more on the bottom here, and I'm just going to start making hair-like strokes to fill in those areas. So once I've put down a few strokes and I have a lot less product on my brush, I like to kind of go in and map out the shape on the bottom very lightly. I think that the key to working with a brow pomade like this, and the reason that a lot of people don't like it, is because you need to work with very little product at a time, otherwise it will get way too bold way too fast. Key thing to remember, not just in doing your brows but in makeup in general, is that building products slowly is always a better option and easier to work with than just going in with a ton of product right away. It gives you a lot more control. It's a lot easier to add more product or add more definition than it is to take it away. So I'm just going back with hair-like strokes, creating the shape that I want, and I'm following the natural shape that my brows have, just filling in the sparser areas. Even though this is the bolder brow look of the two, I still don't want it to look like it's just a solid block of brown, so I keep going back and brushing it out. So now I'm just starting to fill in the top part over here, and this part doesn't need quite as much help as the bottom of my brow needs. So I'm not taking new product on my brush just yet. I'm just taking what's left after finishing the tail over here and going in the top with that very lightly at first. I still want to be able to see my hairs through the pomade. So now I'm just going to take a teeny bit more product on my brush, wipe it off on my hand again, and go in the front over here super lightly, literally like barely touching my skin with the very tip over here of the angled brush, and just making super light, thin strokes. And again, going back and brushing it out. And sometimes I like to just brush my hairs down just so I can see what's going on up here a little bit better. Again, not taking any new product on my brush, just the little bit that's left, and kind of define that shape on the top here very lightly. Okay, so once I'm happy with the shape that I have here, I'm just gonna set my brow hairs in place. This is like a very, very important step for me. This is how I get that really nice texture, I guess, like the feathered look that I am obsessed with. For this, I usually just go ahead and use the Anastasia Clear Brow Gel, and usually there's like a glob that comes off right at the top of it, and I kind of put that right in the middle here, and then go back and brush it out. And you don't want to push too hard on your skin when you're doing this, because you don't want it to disrupt the product that you laid down. So you want to just very lightly only be touching the hairs and just pushing them up. Pushing the hairs up just makes your brows look a lot more natural and also a lot bushier and more full. I'm going to clean them up with concealer. I just use the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer because that's what I use for my face. And I'm just using a flat concealer brush like this, getting some product on it, and I'm going to clean up the bottom of my brow. I don't really draw on a super defined line with the pomade. I like to clean it up with concealer and get the clean line like that because I feel like it looks a little more natural. So I'm just taking it, and I like to start at the tail, just defining the shape that I want. This honestly makes such a huge difference in the way that your brows look. So now cleaning up the top of the brow, I don't really clean it up, as in I don't really want it to be like a super sharp line on the top. I like to keep my brows pretty soft. I don't want really too many harsh lines. So what I actually like to do is, instead of taking concealer for the top, I just take the foundation that I used for my face and put it on that same brush and clean up the top, but I'm not going to swipe it across like this. I'm going to kind of push it in and then swipe up really fast. And you really don't want a lot of product on your brush at all. And this is really more to make sure that there's no gaps in foundation like above my brow, to make sure that everything is nice and covered more than it is defining the shape. Okay, so that is that style of brow. As you can see, there is a huge difference. I usually do this pretty much only if I know I'm taking makeup pictures, because when I'm out and about I like the more natural feathered look, but this photographs so beautifully, especially if you're using flash photography. It looks so good. So now moving on to brow style number 2. This is the more natural feathered brow style that I wear pretty much every day. I use this a lot of times in makeup pictures too. I feel like it's just a little less harsh and looks better in person. So for this, I'm just going to use a pencil. I'm using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz. I'm using the color medium brown in this as well. This is my favorite brow pencil ever. People say that there's dupes out there. People say that the NYX Micro Brow Pencil is similar to this. I disagree. I don't like that pencil at all. I think all of the colors are way too warm. I really just have not found a replacement for this pencil. I'll probably keep buying it until I die. So I'm just going to, again, start by brushing up my hairs. And again, I'm going to start in the same place on the bottom of my brow, making short strokes, pressing very, very softly on my skin. You always want to stop and just brush it through. Because it keeps everything nice and not really blended, but just not harsh. And I'm just keeping pretty much that same movement of the short strokes, pressing lightly throughout my whole brow, just building the shape. Okay, so now that I pretty much have the shape that I want on the bottom here, I'm just going to go in on the top and start lightly filling in the shape that I want up there. Pretty much the same concept as the last brow style. And I like to just brush my hairs down over here, especially with the pencil. It's a lot easier to see what you're doing. And just going very lightly in upward strokes right at the front of my brow. Okay, so that is pretty much the shape that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and set it, and I'm going to set it a little bit differently than I did the last time. I'm just going to use this bar of soap here. This is actually hotel soap. You can use pretty much, well, I don't want to say any bar of soap, something that isn't like dyed or colored. Clear soaps work really well. This one is obviously not clear, but it doesn't leave a white cast or anything on my brows. That's what you want. So I just use an old Brow Wiz. One of them runs out. I don't throw it away. I keep it so I can use the spoolie end of it and get it a little bit wet. And then I'm just gonna kind of rub it on the soap like this, and it'll start sudsing up and it'll be on the spoolie like that. If it's too wet, it'll just mess everything up and take it all away. And if it's too dry, it might stick a little too much and kind of leave residue in your brow hairs, which is not what you want. And again, you want to press very, very lightly, only touching your hairs. If you press on your skin, you're just going to wipe all that work that you did right off. Just lightly pushing it up. And that white that you see on my brow hairs, once the soap dries down, won't be there anymore, which is also why you need the right soap. Alright, now I'm going to clean them up in the same exact way I cleaned them up before. Same concealer, same brush, just defining the shape. And I'm again doing the same technique for cleaning up the top with the foundation. This is especially important for this style because I really do not want a defined line on top. But I, again, don't want patches of skin missing foundation around my brow. And that is my more natural everyday brow style. As you can see, still a huge difference. It is very similar to the other style. I just feel like it's a lot softer in person, and the soap brow technique just really makes it full and fluffy and so nice. I really think that the most important part of getting like my brow look, and the thing that people want to know, is the pushing up of the hairs. That is definitely the most important part. You want to make sure that your hairs are going up. It just makes everything look so neat and polished and still natural. It's just my favorite thing in the world. Like, it's so satisfying. Okay, so that is my brows 2 different ways. I really hope you enjoyed and found this helpful. If you did, please make sure to like this video and subscribe. It would mean so much to me. If you'd like, you can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. And until next time, bye!